Please don't ask to leave early. Please. It's not a good look. It's not the right thing to do. Do not ask to leave early. Yes. And by the way, I've got more suggestions where that came from. I'm Dr. Jen Caudle. I'm a practicing family physician and on-air health expert and video creator. I am also a clerkship director for a family medicine clerkship. I have been for over 10 years. And not only that, my entire career has been in academia for 13, 14 years. I have been working at medical school or residency institutions where I have worked with medical students and residents, hundreds of them, maybe even thousands at this point. And there's a number of things I have seen over the years. So I'm going to tell you 5 of the craziest things I have seen medical students do. Hopefully this will help you know what to do, or rather not do, when you're on your rotation. The first thing, as I mentioned, is don't ask to leave early. That's right. And I would actually caution you about asking to leave in general. Look, as an attending, we'll let you know when it's time to leave. And yes, there are certain situations where maybe we need to be nudged, or maybe some guidance or direction is needed from us. Totally fair. But in general, asking to leave, but specifically asking to leave early, is just not a good look. So make sure that you follow your gut with this one. If it doesn't seem like the right thing to do, and usually this is not the right thing to do, please don't do it. But of course, in all fairness, if there's something about the situation that warrants having a discussion about conclusion time or end time or what's happening next, that certainly is fair. But don't ask to leave early. All right, next thing is, second craziest thing I've seen medical students do on rotations. And by the way, for my medical students who are on my clerkship now, I am not talking about you. These are students that I've had way, way back, over 5-6 years ago. So please don't think I'm talking about you. But the next thing is students who repeatedly do not heed my advice, meaning I've given a student advice or suggestions or guidance about something, but then yet and still I see them continue to do the wrong thing over and over and over and over again. I have had students in the past where I say, well, you know, when you're going into a patient room, try to do this, or don't do this, or make sure you stand on this side of the patient when listening to the heart, or do this when listening to the lungs. Don't listen over clothing when you're listening to the lungs, etc. Or whatever advice I'm giving. If I have told you that and pointed that out, that something that of that nature needs to be improved, if I've told you don't be late, but you continue to do so, that, my friends, is asking for trouble. Okay, that is a personal pet peeve of mine. When I have told you what my expectations are, have guided you about what the right or wrong thing is to do, but yet I see you continually doing what I've asked you not to do over and over again, it makes or it gives me the impression that either you don't care, or you were not listening, or it's not of value to you. There could be many other reasons too, but that's not a good look. When your attendings give you guidance, please heed that guidance and listen. All right, the third thing, let's see here. Now this one, I'll never forget when I had a student argue with me on rotation. Yes, he straight up started arguing with me. I was like, come again? What'd you say? Yeah, I was actually giving him feedback about an encounter. And he actually started arguing with me as though we are, two peers on the street, walking down the street, in the mall, whatever, talking. He straight up started arguing with me, to the point where my staff, out in the area where the staff sit, when we walked by afterwards, they were like, because they knew that wasn't right. The student straight up argued with me. Now, look, I'm not saying that you can't disagree or ask questions or express how you feel, because that is very important. What I'm saying is that there is a way to do it. And arguing with your attending is not the way to do it. Honestly, I would argue, no pun intended, I would argue that's not the way to do it in any workplace. If you have a disagreement, you feel differently, there's a way to say and communicate what it is you're feeling, what you're thinking, what your questions are. This student, that was a problem. But I do have to give this student credit where he did come back to me the next day and he apologized for his behavior after reflecting. So I give him a lot of credit for that. All right, fourth thing, crazy things that medical students have done is one time I walked in because the student was taking a long time in the room, which by the way, that happens, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we help you through that. I mean, there's no doctor that has been a student, which we all have, that has not taken forever in a room at some point. Okay, that's not my issue. But I walked in. The student was straight up counseling the patient, giving them medical advice, going through their labs and telling them what they should do about their cholesterol and their this and their that. And I'm like, hello? Who the doctor here? Um, and it's not that medical students don't have valuable advice to give, and it's not that they can't give advice, but you need to check in with your attending before you do so and get guidance about how and what and if this is all okay. The medical student accepted ownership of this patient, which I love it when students sort of kind of take the reins. That's excellent. But literally, they started giving guidance and counseling about what needed to be done about their medical conditions without even consulting me. Not only are they not a doctor yet because they're a medical student, so they're not licensed, right? They're still under training. So my advice is, if you'd like to maybe give some counseling or you have some ideas, you need to talk with your attending about how they want you to proceed. Every attending is very different. Every patient is very different. Every circumstance is very different. There are going to be circumstances when you're going to be able to sort of go in and give your 3 cents, 4 cents, 2 cents. There are going to be situations where it's not going to be advisable. So please be mindful of that. The fifth thing, and this honestly takes the cake for me. I'll never forget this. This was some years ago. And I was seeing patients in the office, and it was it was not a busy day at all. And the medical student that was rotating with me, at one point, and actually it was a female. She was doing just fine, but at one point I lost track of the student. I said, "Oh," I asked my staff. I said, "Where's the student?" And my staff says, "Oh, she's in the room." I said, "What room?" She goes, "Oh, in room 3." I said, "Why?" And my staff tells me that the student put herself in as a patient. I said, "Huh?" She said, "Yeah, the student had gone up to the front desk, I guess because it was a slow day, and put herself in as a patient to be seen by me to deal with some asthma issues that she had." Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I know. Your mind is blown, isn't it? So is mine. This is a student that was on their rotation, supposed to be shadowing, supposed to be seeing patients, and they put themselves in to be a patient to be seen. Now, there's a lot of issues with that, okay? And I saw her as a patient because patient care always comes first, and it's important to help people. But what I then needed to do was I then needed to call the actual rotation director that she was working under at that time. And I also needed to recuse myself as someone who evaluated her, because I cannot see you as a patient, but also evaluate you as a medical student at the same time. That's a conflict of interest that is not fair. There's a number of words that I can't even think of that go along with that. My point being is that was not the right situation. That was not the right thing for her to do. And I had to pull her aside after the encounter, after I saw her as a patient, and I had to say, "I'm glad that you're being treated for your asthma and the skin rash and the other things we talked about." I said, "But this was not the right opportunity to take to do that. I'm your attending, and in this particular situation, you were working with me as a medical student. You were not a patient. So to switch that role, it was not the right time. It was not the right place. It was poor judgment." So anyway, I hope that was a lesson that she learned as she moved forward. And yes, I did not evaluate her because that would not have been right. But yeah, I've seen it all, guys. Anyway, tell me your crazy med student stories, either things you've done, things you've seen other students do. If you're an attending, what you've seen happen. I'm sure we've all got, as we call them, war stories. Guys, I hope this is helpful for all you med students and residents out there. Keep hope alive. You're doing great. Keep up the good work. One day at a time, put one foot in front of the other. You will get there, guys. I do daily videos on all sorts of stuff, med student resident stuff, as well as COVID, as well as general health stuff. If you have not subscribed to my channel and click the little bell for updates, please do so, guys. I will be back soon.